And I want to ask you two a question. So the interview is flipping over now. What are your policies? What are the three big things each that you really want to push for to make a difference? Because I want to see how close we're aligned, and I think we're pretty closely aligned.
Okay, sure. So Victorian farms are under attack. So we have a policy which is really simply save our farms, and we're standing up for Victorian farmers for better access to water, to fight back against the very predatory practice of water trading and the hidden nature of investment in water. We're very pro-manufacturing, so we consider that our manufacturing in Australia has been under assault for decades now. I want a revision of our trade deals that I consider grant very favourable protections to foreign markets, whilst exposing our own markets that we've built to decimation. And of course, linked in with that comes China. I'm concerned about China. I'm concerned that for years, our mining industry has been incentivized to send huge amounts of unrefined resources overseas. We haven't refined them here in Australia ourselves, and we should have been doing so. I think if we had smarter people in office, we could have built a tremendous steel industry. Instead, China's taken that. And now that steel's coming back to Australia in the form of naval warships near Solomon Islands, and they're running patrols with Indonesia that, by the way, we've given a tremendous amount of foreign aid and military training to. So there's another issue right there that I think needs to be very, very strongly attacked. Government reduction, I consider the government too big, too large. There's duplicate departments. We need greater oversight for government spending. Audits, I think, that are appointed to the private sector to identify wasteful spending, and when a grant's given, the public should be made fully aware how much of that money is going to the proposed purpose and how much is being siphoned off to the bureaucrats and all these consultants that seem to be on a lot of money. And then somewhere along the line, we realize these consultants know someone in office, or they sat down and they had some drinks. And I have no reservations about getting stuck into that and trying to expose these people to the best of my capabilities. I want to see us drilling and refining our own oil again. I'm sick and tired of Australians being subject to these global price fluctuations at the hands of these investment firms that are playing games in the oil's futures markets. And then we wake up in the morning and petrol's $2.20 and the government says, oh, it's because there's a conflict in Ukraine. But I say, no, hang on a second. Back in the 80s, before deregulation, we were pretty much okay. So I think there's a lot of lies being told in this country. Media, scale it back, attack the media, bring up the independent media, and through the context of COVID-19, and this is the short version, this is a summary. Through the context of COVID-19, I consider it an absolutely imperative to this country that pandemic emergency powers are permanently disabled. I consider if the government's exploited us once, they're going to do it again. We know the government exploited their powers under this so-called state of emergency to essentially activate executive order over this country. We know that there was no oversight. We know the lockdowns were never based on the science. We know the advice came from bureaucrats that were hand-selected, hand-picked by the government, whilst huge amounts of medical professionals, hundreds, were ignored by the bureaucrats, ignored by the chief health officers, and slammed by the mainstream media as conspiracy theorists. And I know professors in the medical industry, and they are not conspiracy theorists. The government chose to ignore them because it was outside of their narrative. So I say no more. Even if there is a truly deadly and dangerous virus in the future, I'm happy to put on record that I will always be more concerned about a dangerous government, more so than a dangerous virus, and that we must have a Great Barrington Declaration approach in this country, which is based on personal responsibility. It should be the government's role to provide assistance to the vulnerable, and all of those services should be available. But nonetheless, it should be our responsibility as Australians. We're not dumb, we're smart people. It should be up to us to take care of ourselves, take care of our kids. And on the education front, I say, do away with the woke agendas. This curriculum that has been imposed on kids is abusive by nature. Kids deserve to have the best chance in this country. We need to get rid of these concepts which are inserted into the minds of children. There's this crazy sexual ideology that people can change genders overnight. I think it's doing a lot of harm. and it's unfair, and it's taking away parental rights. And here in Victoria, they've taken it a step further and said, well, if you're a child or a young person, it doesn't matter what age you are, if we consider that you're mature enough, you can go and get the jab without your parents' consent. Parents have been completely spat on and trampled over. And you know, so have teachers in education. They're not able to teach in accordance with their conscience. They're compelled to follow the government mandate on what's acceptable education and what's not. I think it was actually Stalin who once said, if you allow me to control education for one generation, then that is a greater weapon, more so than the biggest military force in the world. And I'm concerned that our government is seeking to control us like that. And we need people who are going to serve Australians without any sort of allegiance to some political brand name or the UN. So I'm with you on that, Steve. Do away with the UN. Do away with the Pandemic Response Pact in the World Health Organization, the Global Postal Union that sees us subsidizing the cost of parcels sent out of China. Let's get our autonomy back. Let's give the middle finger to these people in the World Economic Forum that are seeking a digital identity and to centralize the data of people on Earth, including people in our country. The politicians that are in there with the WEF, let's label them what they are. They're foreign agents. They're not Australian agents doing the work for us. They're representing these corporate bodies with these internationalist centralized agendas. And let's just get back to being Aussies. So that's my rant.
I agree with everything he said.
Sorry, guys, that was a mouthful.
If you're in Victoria and you'd like to get elected a real Freedom Independent into the Senate in this year's federal election, then vote 1, Group R, above the line on the Senate ballot paper. That is R for Revolution. Authorised by Morgan Charles Jonas, Independent for the Senate, Melbourne.